I want to do a quick how-to video for you. I just finished putting a clutch into my medium-duty truck with the Eaton Fuller 6-speed transmission, the FS6406, and I had a couple problems with it afterward. One being the clutch was not adjusted, and the other one was the gear oil was incorrect from what I was told. So let me show you on that, and hopefully it will help you in your adventure on it. The clutch adjustment, I read online trying to find information, and a lot of consensus come back that you set the clutch pedal at 1.5 inches off the floor for free play, and without knowing what the measurements were down below, I went looking, and according to Eaton Fuller, that's not how they do it. So there's actually 3 different types of clutches that are out there, and I'll show you those ones, or just so you know which ones you're working with. This is the clutch kit I used. It's part number 107237-22. It's a new unit from Eaton Fuller, and it's what they call their easy pedal. And the other style is the Solo. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. It's a self-adjusting clutch, and I'm not going to cover that one because I didn't use that one. But the other style here, we've got 2 different styles. Let me show you that. The second style clutch is the 2-disc or double disc. And I'll separate that so you can see that. You have the pressure plate. This is the throwout bearing that's attached to it. You have your first clutch disc. You have your center plate. And then you have the second disc. It's a 14-inch flywheel. It's a 14-inch flywheel, which is standard. So on the third type of clutch setup, it's just a single disc. So that piece goes there. This piece comes out. The second disc comes out, and then of course the pressure plate sits on top of it. That's the third type. So what I'm going to do, this is probably on there wrong, but you get the idea. What I'm going to do is show you how to set up for the single disc and the double disc. I'm going to try explaining this to you without confusing myself. I can do it on my own, no big deal, but when I'm trying to explain it, I get a little lost in translation. So there's 2 measurements they're looking for. The first one is for a single disc plate, they're looking for 1 3/4 clearance, and I'll show you where they want that here in a second. On a double disc plate, they're looking for 3/4 inch clearance. And those clearances are on the single disc, from the bottom of the pressure plate to the top of the throwout bearing, they want 1 3/4, and on the double disc, from the bottom of the pressure plate to the bottom of I guess it'd be the top, they want 3/4 inch. Now, this is, oops, that's not it. This one here is actually 3/4. A friend of mine cut these on his table saw, so I know they're 3/4, but you can see that they're loose. Maybe that was it. This is it. You can see that they're actually loose. So if I was underneath the truck, in order to take that slack up, this is in the resting static position. So I'd have to have somebody push the clutch pedal in, and then take your 5/8 ratchet, put it on the adjusting nut there. Remember, you are underneath the truck. I'm trying to do this one-handed. There. So you have to actually push on it, and then it'll turn. But this one it's not connected. There is no, you have to actually push the clutch pedal in to release it to be able to turn the nut. So I can put the socket on there, but I can't turn it because the clutch pedal is not pushed in. So that's as far as we can go on that one. But if somebody was inside the truck pushing the clutch pedal, I would be able to adjust it, and then according to what Eaton Fuller is looking for. So because it is sloppy in there, if you look on the paper here, it's just turning the adjusting nut clockwise moves the bearing toward the transmission. So with that information in mind, that nut there actually needs to be turned clockwise to get it closer to the 3/4, and that would take up the slack. But again, you can't do that without the clutch pedal being pushed in. So that's that part of it. Now on the flip side of it, if you just have the single disc, it's 1.75" measurement from the top of the pressure plate to the bottom of the, or it'd be the other way around, top of the pressure plate to the bottom of the throwout bearing. So this is 3/4. I don't have the 1.75", but where this is loose, it would actually need to go away from it. So you turn the adjusting nut, again with the clutch pedal pushed in and your 5/8 socket, you would turn it clockwise, and that moves the bearing towards the transmission, which would give it more clearance for the 1.25". So that sets up the single disc one. And again, remember, this is doing the work underneath the truck through the little inspection hole on the bottom of the bell housing, and I'll take you out there and show you the setup on my truck. It's already done. I'm not going to turn the adjusting nut or anything, but it'll just give you an idea. So the second measurement they are looking for is once this is installed in the truck. I did it a little bit different, but let me show you. On the original measurement, they want 1.75" from the bell housing, or I'm sorry, from the clutch disc. No, from the pressure plate to the throwout bearing. That's 1.75". Now what they're asking for you to do is to push in the clutch pedal and measure it from the clutch pressure plate to the throwout bearing, and they're looking for a 1/2 inch of travel. The throwout bearing needs to travel at least a 1/2 inch. You can see here 1/2 inch to 9/16. So being under the truck, measuring through that inspection hole is really kind of hard to do. So I just added 1/2 inch because that's the minimum requirement. So add the 1/2 inch to the 1.75" original one, and you come up with 2.25. Add the 1/2 inch to the 3/4, you come up with 1.25". So a friend of mine cut 1.25" on his table saw, and I know that one is there. So again, under the truck with the clutch pedal pushed in, some people can use a board on it, some people just have a helper and they push the pedal in. So this throwout bearing needs to go at least 1.25". If those sticks will fit under there and they're really snug, then you're good to go. That way you know you have at least a 1/2 inch of clearance. Now the same thing with the single disc being 2.25". I don't have 2.25" sticks, but it's the same theory. Have somebody or have a helper push the clutch pedal in, and you should be able to push the 2.25" sticks between the pressure plate and the throwout bearing. So that sets that up. The third measurement they're looking for is to make sure that the throwout bearing does not bottom out on the input bearing retainer on the transmission. So what I did, after I know the measurements are set on the front side, static height is correct, traveling height is correct, and I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me zoom in a little bit here. You might be able to see the little ring that goes around there. That's actually from where it was contacting the input bearing on the transmission. So this is a clutch from a different truck I had, so I don't have any history on it. Actually, I think that was a 5-speed on there. But anyway, so what I did on mine, when the throwout bearing or when the clutch pedal is pushed in, I put a 35 thousandths feeler gauge. I grabbed 35 thousandths because it was the first one in the drawer, and then I held it up in there, and the friend of mine pushed the clutch pedal in, and it trapped the feeler gauge in there, but I was able to pull it out easily, so I know there was at least 35 thousandths clearance. And Eaton Fuller didn't say how much clearance they wanted. They just didn't want the throwout bearing trapped in there or rubbing on it, and as you can see, this one was rubbing on there. So with that information said, let's run out to the truck, and I'll crawl underneath, and I'll show you this process again underneath the truck. We're underneath the truck. Hopefully my light will pick everything up. So you see the yellow tab there if you need to adjust it, that needs to be pushed in. That's where it is. Now that's where the engine landed. I don't have anybody here to crank the engine over while I'm underneath, so that's just where it stopped. As a side note, what you could do, and I will do when I have an extra foot here, is crank the engine over to where that adjusting nut is down on the very bottom, and then put a mark on the harmonic balancer on the front of the engine, and then that way you can use that to bump it over instead of crawling underneath each time. So let me show you. Right now right now there's a 3/4 measurement, but let me show you the sticks in there. Oh, this is difficult one-handed. So let me set you down. Oh, let me show you this. The clutch arm is on the driver's side. It does not go forward, so when you push the clutch pedal in, I don't know if you can see this, it actually pushes it backward. Oh, I'm sorry. When you push the clutch pedal in, it pulls it forward. And I don't know if you can see this or not. The fork on the top, I don't know if you can see this or not. Oh, this is crazy. There it is. Oh, maybe up in the corner there. Let me see if I can move it again. Oops. Where's it at? There it is. I don't know if you can see that. I don't have an extra hand to put in there, but you can see the arm moving backward toward the throwout bearing, and when you push on the clutch pedal, it'll pull the throwout bearing rearward. So let me put the sticks in there. Okay, that shows 2 of them. I put 2 of them in there. Let me spin this around. My bugs. Ouch. I put 2 of them in there. That way it goes out the same amount of distance. These sticks are 3/4 inch, so I know that's set at the 3/4 space that Eaton Fuller is asking for. Now I don't have an extra person here to push the clutch pedal in. But let me do that. I don't have an extra person here to push the clutch pedal in, but this is 1.25 inches, and that same distance would go between the pressure plate and the throwout bearing, and that would set that distance. So then I know it's accurate for the adjustment. So, and then something else they said on the, oh, this is difficult. Something else, when you push the throwout bearing, or when you push the clutch pedal in, the throwout bearing goes rearward. You can kind of see the little, well, I can see it. I'm not sure if you can see it. The bearing retainer is right there. So if you adjust it too much, then it will hit that. So what's something I found to do to make sure I wasn't pushing up against that is when everything was adjusted, I put a feeler gauge in there, and then when the clutch pedal is pushed in, it traps the feeler gauge in there, it holds it, and there's very little resistance to pull it out. So I know there's at least 35 thousandths clearance on there, but that sets that up. And then something else I did, and I'll go back and show you. Let me set this up. I'm only gonna do one of them because I need an extra hand on the. Come on. On the transmissions with the clutch brakes, they want an 1/8 inch distance between the clutch arm and the throw-out bearing. So what I did, even though this does not have the clutch brake, I'll explain to you here in a second when we go back inside. So I took 2 of these and I slid them in there just as a way to gauge for next time for adjusting it. That way I know I have a determined, or I have a preset measurement. Let me see if I can get a better picture of that. I hope that's showing up. Anyway, I put one on both sides. That way it's set on both sides. So let me run back in. What I did, I actually took some 1/8 inch steel strap that I had laying around. It's just 1/8 inch by 1 inch steel strap, and I put it between the clutch fork and the throw-out bearing just to get a base dimension. And then I looked at the free play measurement on the clutch pedal. According to Eaton Fuller, they want 1 inch to 3 inch. So if you're not getting a full 1/2 inch travel of throw-out bearing, you need to look at the dimensions or the distance on your clutch pedal. So with the measurements, with the straps placed in there, so I know it's 1/8 inch, I actually have 1.25 inch free play travel on the pedal. So I know my measurements are good. So for the double disc, it's 3/4, and then clutch pedal pushed in, it's 1.25 inch, and then 1/8 inch strap, and I have 1.25 inch free play on the clutch pedal. So when some people are saying to use the free play pedal distance of 1.5 inches, it doesn't necessarily mean everything is correct down below in the transmission. So if you're not getting the 1 inch to 3 inch pedal free play pedal clearance that they want, and you know that your throw-out bearing to pressure plate distance is correct, the next step would be to check the linkage on your clutch pedal. Now a lot of the times people will say don't mess with that linkage, but if you're not getting the 1/2 inch to 9/16 travel from your throw-out bearing, that's the only thing left. So again, that's why I use the 1/8 inch straps between the throw-out bearing and the clutch fork, just to set the basic measurement, and then verified that I was getting between the 1 inch to 3 inch measurement on the pedal, because that's what Eaton Fuller wants. So, and then it just worked out for mine. So I know now I have the three dimensions: the static dimension, the pushed in dimension, and then the it's a tongue twister, the free play pedal dimension. So, and then everything else is in check. So lastly, but most importantly, is the gear oil that I had in the transmission. A guy that works at a fleet shop told me that they put just standard 50 weight gear oil, transmission gear oil, in the transmissions, and the transmission started out shifting really sticky, and then by the time the gear oil warmed up, it would not downshift at all. So that was kind of a pain on that. After going through a bunch of reading online trying to figure stuff out, I discovered that the transmissions use what's called a PS386. Freightliner uses it, and I got this one from Peterbilt because they use the same style of transmission, but it's a synthetic lubricant, and if you look at the PS386, it actually breaks it down into a 40 weight gear oil, synthetic gear oil. So there is a difference. So that was my fault for not researching it more, but just to kind of give you an idea, it does make a huge difference. And yeah, it's too small, you can't read, but you can see that it covers quite a few things. Yeah, Eaton Fuller, or Eaton, Peterbilt, Kenworth, Mack, Navistar, Meridor. So just be careful on what you put in for gear oil, and or if you do have an issue with it, then make sure you follow the manufacturer's recommendations, what they're putting into it, so, or learn from my mistake on it. So now that this transmission oil is into it, when it's cold, it's still a little bit sticky to shift, but as it warms up, it's a whole lot better once it's warmed up. And I think I'll put some miles on it and then swap the fluid out. But for now, I know that was the issue on it, and adjusting the clutch too. So just something to think about when you go looking for gear oil. So with all that being said, I hope this how-to video has helped you, and then it gives information to anybody else that's trying to set the dimension on the transmission or the pressure plate without a clutch brake. It does not have a clutch brake. That's the difference between this one and all the information out there that shows how to set up the clutch disc. So hopefully this has helped you, or it helped me, and then that's all I have for this one. I appreciate you watching, and then I'll post another video as soon as I get it done.